Let's talk Wii Music. Not the 2008 game that saw a sweaty DJ Robbie drum his way into early meme culture on the E3 stage. I'm talking about the Wii's music. The Kazumi Totaka composed themes that serves as the backdrop for the console and its many pre-installed channels. 2005 was an odd time in gaming. 5 years after the PlayStation 2 revolutionized the three-dimensional space, sorry Dreamcast, console makers were looking for the next big thing. For Sony, it was backwards compatibility. After botching the appeal of new media with the PlayStation Portable and its universal media discs, which, in fact, weren't universal because nothing else could play the things, Sony turned to Blu-ray, equipping the PS3 with a disc drive that helped the new format flourish in the marketplace. The drive could also play DVDs, and, for the first two console iterations, all of the Sony's back catalog of games. PlayStation and PlayStation 2 discs worked right out of their 5-plus-year-old cases. Full disclosure, I couldn't conjure the $600 to purchase a PS3 at launch, so I never experienced the joy of having my entire game library playable on one glossy black machine. Microsoft instead leaned into a cheaper, DVD-driven package with its $399 Xbox 360. The system's theme during its unveiling at 2005 was, well, besides Electric Green, was connectivity. Xbox Live was the de facto online console game service, providing a uniform multiplayer ecosystem that outmatched bare-bones offerings from Sony and Nintendo. I also want to note that one of the highlights of the Microsoft presentation was when Xbox 360 was carried onto the stage by a presenter named Kim, who produced the box from her shoulder-slung duffel bag and plopped it onto the podium. For comparison, Nintendo President Satoru Iwata pulled a black Wii out of his jacket breast pocket. 2005 was all about that showmanship. Nintendo's game plan, however, was multifaceted. When Iwata showcased the Wii, then known as the Nintendo Revolution, he was signaling that the entertainment giant wasn't taking a conventional approach to the seventh generation of gaming. To put it bluntly, Nintendo's 2005 E3 conference was all about accessibility. Quote, "We," according to the then president of Nintendo of America, Reggie Fils-Aimé, "is the sound of inclusion. It's the sound of every gamer you know and every new gamer who is going to join us." Cultish as that may sound, the Wii would continue on to be a resounding hit, moving 52 million units and nearly outselling PS3 and Xbox 360 combined. Unlike Sony, Nintendo didn't offer a deep, backwards-compatible library. GameCube games played on the Wii just fine, with the top cover popping open to reveal 4 GameCube controller ports. But the 2006 press event made clear that any hopes to play Nintendo 64, Super Nintendo, or original NES games would be stifled behind a paywall. And unlike Microsoft, the Wii didn't offer a unified online experience. It lacked an Ethernet port, so players were forced to pray for a stable, peer-to-peer connection as they tried to take stocks in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. On paper, the Wii was lackluster, doing little to revolutionize game hardware beyond the Wiimote and its calibrated motion sensor. Culturally, the Wii is possibly the most significant of the 7th generation consoles, bridging the gap between generations of gamers and non-gamers through an intuitive control scheme, a competitive $249 launch price, and the time-tested Nintendo seal of approval. In my mind, however, there's one place the Wii remains unmatched in the console space: its music. Among the many oddities of Nintendo's Wii, the sensor bar that had to sit atop or beneath your TV, the Wiimote strap that games so desperately warned players to wear, I'm forever endeared to the console's presentation. After booting the system up, players were greeted with a white menu screen filled with bubbles known as channels. In a conversation with Satoru Iwata, Tomoaki Kurome, who worked on designing the interface, said that the design gave equal weight to the disk drive channel as it did the news or photo channels in an effort to garner interest from a wider demographic. The simplistic layout was infinitely more digestible than the PS3's cross-media bar or Xbox 360's dashboard. And the experience was made even more memorable thanks to the accompanying background music. The music of the Wii, not to be confused with the conductor simulator game Wii Music, helped prevent Nintendo's inclusion. Every time I'd load into a menu, I'd be greeted with a familiar, echoing synth tune. It was a stark contrast to Sony and Microsoft, whose systems featured cinematic startup noises before going silent to urge you into action. With the Wii, I could load up the system and then leave it on in the dark while I ran to the kitchen to grab a drink. The bright white menu screen would illuminate my steps, and the quaint, atmospheric music would keep me company as I made my way back to my seat. Wii Music was the paragon of user experience, adding a touch of flair to the process of inserting a disc and clicking start. The man behind the music was Kazumi Totaka. Totaka's relationship with Nintendo began in 1992, when he composed for the Space Combat Simulation X, as well as more notable titles like Mario Paint and Super Mario Land 2. Much like Jun Sonoya's influence at Sega or his Nintendo colleague Koji Kondo, Totaka's musical style seeped into a variety of games in the run of 2006 and the Wii, including Luigi's Mansion and Yoshi's Story. His role in Animal Crossing, however, would immortalize him through a fan-favorite banjo-playing dog named Totaka. Totaka, who performs under the moniker KK Slider, is the resident musician in the Animal Crossing series. He's the in-game artist responsible for digitizing Totaka's compositions, performing a set every Saturday. The songs showcase Totaka's musical range, spanning genres and international styles while fitting neatly in the bulbous and colorful Animal Crossing world. In a pair of interviews from Nintendo Online Monthly and translated by Shmupulations, Totaka explained that developing for Animal Crossing was unlike developing for a traditional video game. In Animal Crossing, each cartridge will give a slightly different terrain for your village. Also, the rooms and the animals are a little different. We wanted music that would reflect those dynamic changes. But this isn't the first time I've used music like this in the game. In Yoshi's Story, for instance, the music changes to reflect Yoshi's mood. This idea of dynamic, atmospheric music carried through Totaka's work. Animal Crossing's soundtrack wasn't a game soundtrack as much as it was a soundtrack for experiences. Though I couldn't find any direct interviews with Totaka on the creation of the Wii Shop music, conversations with other developers hint to the experiential design of the Wii's menus and consequently its music. In one such interview, the design team noted that, quote, each channel can have a variety of different personalities. The result is an earworm of a theme song that encourages leisurely browsing through their catalog of games past and present. In the Wii Shop channel, the simplistic synth melody is nudged along by a two-stepping bass line, and it's entirely inoffensive. It harkens back to a time when malls and shopping centers played music over the intercom, filling the air with good vibrations as shoppers perused racks of merchandise. Totaka is also credited with composing the other default Wii channels. There's the soft techno news channel theme, which plays a winding synth and bass melody that evokes the limitless connectivity of the internet, which in 2006 was a fascinating, if overwhelming, feeling. Then there's the forecast channel, whose ethereal compositions would change depending on the time of day. The Me channel, which was the Wii's hub for character creation, featured a keyboard and string backing track that effortlessly plods along as players spend time handcrafting replica Big Bird and Michael Jackson avatars. Though all of the Wii's channels have gone offline, save for the Shop channel, which allows users to read down their own games, Totaka's musical influence lives on. The Wii U, Nintendo's 8th generation console, similarly featured mood-setting music for its array of channels. The newly crafted eShop even went as far as debuting saccharine holiday music to promote the season of shopping. The Nintendo Switch has toned down the music. A simple ascending and descending jingle plays as you load into the shop before breaking into silence. And while the Switch is lauded for its hybrid technology, fans continue to clamor for a more robust, or simply standard, feature set. The system lacks native voice chat, it lacks social features like Miiverse, and has been plagued by subpar ports of popular games. The Wii shared all of those problems, but I don't remember complaining. I'm sure I did, but the memories of the console's default music has edged out any ill will I had towards its shortcomings. The Wii might not have revolutionized gaming. Traditional controllers don't seem to be going anywhere, but its soundtrack remains an unforgettable piece of gaming history.